It is MLB Trade Deadline Day. Tarik Skubal. I always say his first name wrong. He could be responsible for the end of baseball in 2027. That's the theory, right? The Dodgers broke baseball. Hold on a second. We'll get into this during the opening line. There are some decent points on either side today about what is going to happen in 2027 and who is to blame for a pending lockout that will happen when the CBA expires at the end of the year. Andrew Erickson will join us today. We're not talking just baseball. Trade deadline 6 p.m. But football, fantasy football. We'll get to that. Hall of Fame games Thursday. Got a lot to get to. We are loaded today. Welcome to Monday. This is Pushing the Odds.
It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live from the world-famous Las Vegas Strip. It's Pushing the Odds.
For guys like me, Las Vegas washes away your sins. It's like a morality car wash. Back home, they would have put me in jail for what I'm doing. But out here, they're giving me awards.
Here he is, Matt Perrault.
Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
What's up, guys? How are you? It is a loaded Monday for Pushing the Odds with Matt Perrault. It's being brought to you by BetCris Arizona. We've got the trade deadline for Major League Baseball. Tarik Skubal is a Dodger. What did the Tigers get for Skubal? Does it matter? The Tigers got 3 prospects, but in all honesty, the market was the LA Dodgers and nobody else. Anyone could have beaten that price, could have beaten that package if the Dodgers were not the ones that are going to pay for Skubal in the offseason. It was a rental. For anybody else except the Dodgers, Skubal was going to be a rental. And so the Brewers and the Cubs and anyone else that had any inclination of potentially trading for Skubal, they said, you know what? He wants to be on the West Coast. He's been pretty honest about it. He's talked about it to people around him that, yeah, I'd go to LA. I'd be good with the Dodgers. And so the Dodgers traded for him, and they did not have to give up even a top 5 prospect to get the 2-time defending American League Cy Young Award winner for not a rental, but for the long term. That is what the Dodgers do now. Because of their money, because of the market, and their success, they can do deals that nobody else can do. Is that going to destroy baseball in 2027? Yes. Is that their fault? I don't know if that's the Dodgers' fault. We'll get to that coming up here in the opening line. Andrew Erickson from FantasyPros and Betting Pros. He'll stop by today. Let's talk about drafts. You guys who are in fantasy teams, fantasy leagues, you've got drafts coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll get into 3 players he likes that you should be targeting that probably will be available early in your draft that could have big breakout years and could help you win your league. We'll do that today. We will jump down the rabbit hole talking college football and college sports. Both the SEC and the Big Ten agreed to the congressional bill that will put some parameters, if passed, on college athletics. Will it solve it? I don't know. We'll get to the details of it coming up here today. We have a Trend Center app trend of the day to get to for Major League Baseball. There are games being played today, even though we're all talking trades as to what team is going to help itself to go ahead and try to win the American League or the National League pennants. The Boston Red Sox won't stop winning. They swept the Dodgers. Dodgers don't care, but they got swept at home by the Red Sox, who continue to be the hottest team in Major League Baseball, and they have not done anything of note yet. Yeah, they picked up a prospect from the Nationals who got hit on the wrist and fractured his wrist in his first game played, but the Red Sox need help at shortstop. Will they get it today? We'll look at that today coming up. We'll take a look at some other things bopping around in NFL. Circus Sports team of the day is the Houston Texans, but we start the show today. Oh, forgot. We do have 9 contestants available alive for our Circa Millions entry contest. I've got another clue for you guys coming up about halfway through the show. Stick around for that. I know there's only 9 of you, so we're going to go quick, but there's 9 of you still alive, and we'll get down to see what happens after today. We started off, I think, with like 89, I think somewhere in that range for people who were in the contest. We're down to 9 to see who's going to pair with me for the Circa Million entry that we're going to go ahead and sign up for at the end of the month. We are in Vegas on Thursday and Friday for Bet Bash. We're doing the show from Bet Bash, audio only version on Thursday, no video, only audio for the version of PTO coming up 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be recorded, not live, recorded from Bet Bash, and then it'll be out later in the day between Adam Bjorn and myself live. So we'll do that coming up here in a couple seconds. Yes, Ross Randall's approval. We have 9. He did get approved. Yes, I allowed it to pass. He showed me screenshots. He showed me timestamps, and I'll let it go. But we've got some more stricter regulations and rules. Those 9 people aren't going to be able to do it right before the show. They're going to have to get it in way before that if they want to be counted going forward here for the 9. See how many we're left with after today for the Circa Million contest. We start the show with Skubal to the Dodgers. It's the opening line. Opening line being brought to you by Huel. That QR code on your screen, you can take your phone out and shoot that. It'll take you right to Huel.com/PTO to get the offer. 15% off for new customers, or use the code PTO at checkout for Huel. What is Huel? It's human fuel. Huel. Huel. 40 grams of protein, up to 11 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. This is not a protein shake. This is not a supplement. This is a meal replacement. This is about controlling your nutrition. The ready-to-drink bottles give you 35 grams of protein and 7 grams of fiber. They are available in Target and in Costco. If you see that bottle, that chocolate is great. Vanilla is great. I drink this all the time for breakfast, but you can even do it for lunch or dinner at the end of the day. If you're super busy, go to Huel.com/PTO. Use the code PTO to save 15% off for new customers. So Skubal gets traded to the Dodgers. I don't really care about the return, because the return, there's 3 prospects. Maybe they turn into something, maybe they don't. Okay. It was up to the Tigers to determine whether or not they were going to get enough back. They thought they got enough back. I'm not so sure. But what it does, it sets up a lineup for the Dodgers for something we have never seen before. This is the first time in the history of baseball that reigning back-to-back winners of both the Cy Young in the American League and the MVP of a National League or any league are on the same team. We've never seen this type of firepower being concentrated with one team. It's the first time since 2004 that the reigning MVP and Cy Young happens to be on the same roster. The Dodgers now have 50 All-Star Game appearances on their roster. They have 6 seasons for MVPs. They have 4 Cy Youngs, and they have 19 Silver Slugger Awards on their roster. This is the greatest on-paper baseball team that we have ever seen. And you might go, Matt, how in the world did the Dodgers do this? How were they able to create a roster with this much firepower? These guys all are top of the line. They all want to make big money. They all want to get paid big time. Well, how did they do it? Deferred money. The Dodgers are deferring $1.1 billion. $1.1 billion. They're paying Shohei until 2043. They're paying Mookie Betts until 2044. They're paying Blake Snell until 2046. I mean, Skubal is going to sign a monster contract, and we'll see what Skubal gets paid for until. But we're talking about, if you don't know the date, it's 2026 at the moment. And we're talking about 2040 and beyond for this. Skubal going to the Dodgers, in my opinion, it's an unfortunate thing for the sport. But I don't hate the Dodgers. But I am going to acknowledge that the Dodgers, this is the tipping point. This is the Dodgers tipping point, and this just killed baseball in 2027. The difference between this story and past stories is that I think people are in support of baseball going away to get a salary cap. And I am not somebody who puts on a tinfoil cap to talk conspiracy theory all that often, but I think there is something to the idea that the Dodgers getting Skubal was allowed by owners and was cheered upon by owners because they will use this as the linchpin. They'll use this as the focal point and say, this is what we have to stop. I think if you are a real baseball fan, I don't think you want to stop the Dodgers from being competitive and being well run and using all the different tools in their disposal to be the best franchise in baseball. Because right now the Dodgers are the best franchise in baseball. There's no debate about it. I think when the Yankees were running through the American League and when the Yankees were doing all the things that they were doing, I don't think there's a lot that people were able to wrap their arms around the way that they can this. A salary cap has been talked about forever in Major League Baseball. Fans of the, not to pick on the Midwest, but like Cleveland and Kansas City and Minnesota, like those fans have always wanted a salary cap, right? But I think the bigger deal is getting rid of this. I think this is what fans really would like to see out of baseball. This deferred payment structure that the Dodgers have taken advantage of, that there needs to be some reeling in on teams that are going to do this. Because not everybody can do this, right? The Dodgers know that they are going to be competitive in a major market, making millions and millions, billions of dollars from now until whenever we all leave this planet, right? Until the Dodgers, who knows, whenever human existence stops, the Dodgers are going to be able to make a lot of money, right? So they can defer all their money. They're good with it. Well, that's a problem for the rest of baseball. So I think most fans would love to see that being deferred. But the Dodgers still have to win the game, right? They almost last year got beat in the postseason. Now they've added Skubal, okay? I don't think Shohei's going to pitch much the rest of the year, if at all. He's going to be a batter, which is a damn good batter. But the Red Sox just showed you go in there, you can beat the Dodgers. Red Sox just did it in 3 games in LA. So just because on paper they're the best team and they're historic doesn't mean that the Dodgers are going to win. We've seen teams go on runs before, okay? The Yankees in recent memory have gone on runs where they've won multiple World Series in a row, right? Back then, people were clamoring and calling for a salary cap, some type of control. Didn't happen. Instead, we got 16 champions between 2000 and 2026. The players are going to say, we're never going to accept this. And this will be the owner's refrain over and over again. We have to make a more competitive game. To be successful, the game must be more competitive. It can't be just one-sided. I think most people would agree with that. And the trading for Skubal, I think, finally flipped it over. I do think that people are going to hate the Dodgers more now than ever before. Giant fans, Padre fans, some National League fans have always hated the Dodgers. But the American League people don't really care because they don't see the Dodgers. They don't hear about the Dodgers. We're all asleep here in New England. We don't watch them. You hear about Skubal. You hear about the dominant, what this guy could do on paper, and that we've never seen a rotation like this ever before. I mean, the ERAs alone of the starting pitchers are insane. You still have to win the games. But I feel like East Coast people are finally sick to death of this, going, wait, hold on. You have Ohtani, you have Blake Snell, you're adding Skubal, you've got Glass now, you're going to bring back different pitchers that have been injured. Like, what's going on? Huh? You have the best OPS in baseball. You have a lineup that 1 through 9 is impossible to stop, and you're adding a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. How is this possible? So I think this is the breaking point for most fans, and they're furious about it. Does it mean the Dodgers win it all? Not necessarily. I mean, there's been other small deals. The Cubs landed Kevin Gausman. The Rays got Freddie Peralta. There's trades going on right now. If a big one comes down, I'll need you guys in the brigade. Go ahead in the chat and tell me. We'll do some breaking news and we'll talk about it. But did the Dodgers kill baseball? That's everyone's wondering, right? Well, I think the answer to that is yes. But are they to blame for it? No. I mean, this has been the Dodgers are just operating their franchise better than anybody else. So it's kind of like I'm on both sides, I guess you could say, which is a bad place to be. I know. I understand that owners want a salary cap, and the Dodgers getting Skubal creates an environment in which the fans agree we need a salary cap. Thus, the owners are going to feel emboldened to lock out the players, and we don't have baseball in 2027. But at the same point, I look at the Dodgers and their farm system. I look at the Dodgers and their culture. I look at the Dodgers and their success. And that's all on the field. Like, that's all what they're doing to win baseball games. They're just better. They're better than everybody else. So that's the problem. Is the system broken? Yes. Are the Dodgers to blame for that, though? No. That's the problem. I think people are getting twisted here a little bit with, like, you know, all this Dodger hatred. I get the hatred. I hate LA too, but it's not the Dodgers' fault that they are better at this system, in this system, than anyone else. It's kind of like the Patriots, okay? The Patriots were better than anyone else in the system that the NFL had put in place, and thus you had the jealousy and all the cheating allegations and all our bullshit that came out of the Patriots' 20-year run. You weren't supposed to be able to do what the Patriots did in the NFL's system. You aren't supposed to be able to do this if you're the Dodgers in the current Major League Baseball system, because no one has the ability to defer $1.1 billion. Only the Dodgers seem to be willing to defer $1.1 billion. So, and look, the Red Sox are big money. The Yankees are big money. The Cubs are big money. No one's doing this but the Dodgers. Are they to blame for that? No, they're just better run. They're just a better run franchise than anybody else. I'm in New England. Let's bring him on. One Mr. Andrew Erickson, Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, joining us here. We're switching gears. Let's talk football. How are you, my friend?
I am doing excellent, Matt Perrault. So happy that you reached out to get me on the show. Look, the calendar is August. You're talking about this baseball thing. I'm like, dude, I'm locked in. When are the Eagles visiting the Patriots for joint practices? I've already circled it on my calendar because I want to see AJ Brown against these Eagles defensive backs who would like to be very, very chippy, because we're not going to see any of that in the preseason game. So I am super excited to talk fantasy here on the show with you, man.
It's wild too, because the Hall of Fame game is on Thursday. And I think as you hit August, yes, baseball is on people's brains, but I think the collective, the collective will tell you that it's football season, and people's attention is starting to gravitate towards their own fantasy football teams, their own football team, as to what it's going to look like. What is life like for you right now, though? Because I don't think people realize how much research and how much work you have to do right now. Because for Fantasy Pros, this is go time, right? This is your most important period.
Some might even say, and to quote our great leader, Andrew Sears, crunch time for us here in the Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros streets with the NFL season coming up. So yeah, it's crazy. Every single day, it's updating rankings, adjusting for things because of injuries. We're already having guys get hurt. Ricky Pearsall obviously was the big news last week. So that has a ripple effect of how you now address the 49ers. Do you have to move Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel? Now he's thrown into the mix. So every single day, it's monitoring these training camp reports, figuring out these injuries. So we are locked in, and you got to be ready to go. So I'm amped.
What do you make? Let me ask it this way. In terms of roster building for teams, for people, for fantasy football teams, how much do you recommend people to be like deep in the weeds? Or do you think it could be something where, hey, 2 or 3 days before your draft, You just start to compile some information. How have you seen success over the years? Is it the people that go deep and today they're drafted like on August 24th and they're already 4 books in? Or is it the guy that shows up with 2 or 3 days worth of prep work, comes in and does well?
Well, I think you can have success in both ways. I think that from speaking from myself, I'm in the weeds. I mean, I've been drafting teams since basically like March, before the NFL draft even kicked off. So I think that that's just something that because I enjoy this stuff so much, like this is a passion for me. And I'm just so happy that it is also my full-time job. But with the tools that we have at Fantasy Pros, you can also be in that other bucket where you just kind of show up, you have the expert consensus rankings, you have the draft tools, and you should be good to go. Now, I do think that a little bit of prep beforehand, even if it's like a day or two before, just running through some simulations with our draft wizard, I think it's just the best way to get an edge because you're just going to find out where players will be available when you pick, especially if you know, oh, I'm picking in my snake draft. I'm the 11th overall pick. Run through some simulations, just kind of get familiar with the names that will most likely be on the board by the time you pick. Kind of write those down, jot those down. And again, we have cheat sheets that you can follow my rankings, Fitz, Debro, everyone over at Fantasy Pros. So again, if you don't want to put in the work, we do it for you. And using the tools makes it really easy. I know we have a free trial going on right now. So go check it out, fantasypros.com/free trial.
I'm not trying to shill for our company, but I'm just, you guys know I work for both companies. I work for Pushing the Odds and I also work for Betting Pros. But Fantasy Pros, you guys do an incredible job. Debro's going to be on the show a lot this year as well. I am curious. I'm not trying to bash anybody else for their own, but I've seen people be very negative towards other people's rankings, like the free site rankings. How different is it when you guys go behind the paywall on Fantasy Pros and you start using those tools? How much different is the information that you guys make available on Fantasy Pros versus the free stuff that's available on the internet?
So a lot of it goes to the full expert consensus rankings, which are behind the premium subscription to Fantasy Pros, where you're not just getting my rankings or Fitz's or Debro's, it's across the industry. Anyone that has submitted their rankings through the expert platform, which is really good for analysts. Again, how I kind of keep track of everything. There are some rankers, if you're not using the analyst tools, that are doing this in like Google Sheets. And I cannot imagine how annoying that must be to try to like drag and drop all these players, copying, pasting when you have this great expert platform tool. So it makes things like, okay, Ricky Pearsall is out. We get a red Q tag for him saying, okay, he's going to be out. We got to move Deebo Samuel up the ranks. How do we affect Brock Purdy? So that's one of the big advantages, I think. Do you get access to all those types of rankings along with other premium things? And I think too, with the draft wizard tool specifically, you can then sync up multiple and more leagues. So if you are in a situation where you're playing like 10, 12, 15 fantasy leagues, like you need this premium subscription because like that's really what's going to help separate you because yes, you can free your one league for free on the mock draft simulator. And that's definitely the first step. But if you really want to dive in deeper, getting all the information, especially with like draft intel, where you can get information about your league mates and their draft history. And oh, this guy always drafts a Patriot 2 rounds ahead of ADP. Go figure. It's a New England draft. So again, I was using the mock draft tool before I was even associated with Fantasy Pros in any way, shape, or form. I remember I would be doing this in my college dorm. So I'm like, all right, I can get Keenan Allen in round 3, and then another name, Jeremy Hill, former running back for the Bengals.
Wow.
Like, I can get him in round 2 as a sophomore. He was obviously a bust, but it's a great tool, and there's no better way to get prepped for your specific draft because it also syncs your league settings. So PPR, half PPR, keepers, it's all done for you at a click of a button.
So when you go to spring training, you work on things like bunting, you work on things like what bases to cover, you work on things like, hitting the right cutoff man, right? So what are just the basic blocking and tackling strategic things that everyone playing fantasy needs to know before their draft?
Value-based drafting, I think, is probably the most important thing to remember when you're going into your draft, and to not react to gut feel or runs on certain positions. You're trying to extract as much value as you can. So that's where the rankings come into play, where there may be a guy falling like a stone because of XYZ reason. But if he's the top guy on the consensus board, then that's probably going to be a good pick when you look back on it. Some of the best picks I've made were not necessarily always players that I was going out of my way to try and acquire. It was, well, everybody else hates this guy, and right now he's a screaming value. One of the greatest cases of this a couple of years ago was Josh Jacobs. And he played in the Hall of Fame game, and nobody wanted him. Everyone was like, this guy is dead on arrival. Nobody wants Josh Jacobs. He's fallen like round 7, round 8, round 9. And eventually it was just like, look, I don't love this player, but you just got to take him at this point. And he had an absolute monster season. Led the NFL in rushing yards that particular year under Josh McDaniels. So always take value where you can see it. I also, try to follow certain strategies. You can go check out my perfect draft article over on Fantasy Pros, but going late round quarterback, I think makes a lot of sense this year. Just the quarterback position is very, very deep. We're going to talk about one of those guys that I really like in the later rounds. And honestly, trying to get your bell cow running back early on. Like we've seen the running backs really bounce back in the last couple of years. Again, even with teams using more than one, we're still seeing the bell cow running backs really thrive, especially as pass catchers out of the backfield. So I find myself getting really queasy if I do a draft and don't have a running back after my first 2 picks. And I know that Fitz and I, we were drafting in the Kings Classic last weekend in Canton, Ohio. And our start, we were picking at the end of the 12-team draft. We went running back. And then we didn't touch running back for a long time. He's like, nope, we got a running back set. And you'll love the receivers that go in those middle rounds. So that's kind of some overarching strategy I'm looking at for 2026 drafts.
All right, here are 3 players. Let's talk about them that you, if you're in fantasy, that Andrew likes to be targeting for this coming season. Let's start with Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens, who had 86 catches last year, 5 touchdowns, 1,200 yards receiving. This is a new head coach in Baltimore, but you still have obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Lamar Jackson. What do we think about Zay Flowers? Why are you liking him this year?
I think this is the year he finally blows up. And to make a great comparison, remember when Happy learned how to putt? Well, yep. Zay Flowers is going to learn how to score touchdowns finally this year. That's my prediction here for him. You have Declan Doyle coming in as the new offensive coordinator. Todd Monken is no longer calling the plays here for the Baltimore Ravens. And I just think that invites the possibilities of, let's get our best player on offense the ball more in the red zone. Because if you actually look at last year, the Ravens were not effective in the red zone. They were 27th in red zone scoring. That was just one of the issues that they ran into last year where things got derailed when Lamar Jackson was banged up. But when Lamar was healthy last year, Flowers was hitting nearly 13 points per game in the 13 games he played. He was over 15 points per game in full PPR. I mean, just look at the numbers. He was the only receiver last year to hit at least 1,200 receiving yards and not score at least 8 touchdowns. Right. Wow. So eventually, the talent is so clearly there with him. He's a player that has improved every single season, former first-round pick, entering his 4th year of his NFL career attached to Lamar Jackson. We did see a bit of a touchdown scoring binge over the last part of the 2025 season. He scored 5 touchdowns over the last 4 games. And I think the team's going to remember that and think, man, Zay Flowers is pretty good. Maybe we should get this guy more involved around the red zone. The consistency and floor is there, which is why I love him so much in fantasy, because let's say I'm wrong here and he doesn't have this, and he just, again, it's another 5 touchdown season. Well, he was a top 7 wide receiver last year with just 5 touchdowns. So I think you're getting him at his absolute floor. He's going well outside the top 12 wide receivers, but a ceiling because of the talent. Again, yards per route run last year, one of the more predicted metrics at receiver, 4th last year behind only Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Luther Burden. Those 2 other guys, those guys are top 5 locked and loaded picks. When it comes to target share, how much is he commanding in this offense? Well, he had a 28% target share. That was 5th in the NFL. And when I just look at the Ravens receiving room, it's Mark Andrews, who I think is totally cooked at this point, and a bunch of rookies, and Rashad Bateman, who can never stay healthy. So Zay Flowers is I think he's just the perfect player to want to be betting on to take another step forward. And I'm always making the comparison to Antonio Brown in his 4th season. That's who I comped Zay Flowers to coming out of Boston College. And AB just went totally nuclear in the fantasy streets in his 4th season. So I'm predicting something very similar for Flowers.
All right. I love this because I'm with you. I got a prop bet I'm going to give you in a second. I'm questionable. I want to question you about it. But Trevor Lawrence, quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, with arguably the greatest receiver group in the NFL, over 4,000 yards passing last year, 29 touchdowns. It's year 2 in Liam Cohen's offense. In year 1, the first half of the year was pedestrian. The second half of the year was an absolute, blast off for him in terms of stats and fantasy and wins and everything else. I'm high on Trevor Lawrence. You are too. Why?
From week 5 onward, he outscored every other player in fantasy. Every single one at 23 points per game. We saw him take off in this Liam Cohen offense, despite the fact that there was a rotating carousel of wide receivers. Travis Hunter was there, and then he was out. And then they put Parker Washington in it, and Brian Thomas Jr. He was playing through injuries. Bretton Strange, he missed time with injuries. But now the cupboard is stacked with one of the deepest receiver rooms, like you kind of alluded to, where maybe there is no alpha, but hey, you know who's pretty good without an alpha for a really long time? Tom Brady, right? Like he didn't force feed one particular guy, but he made it work. And that's really what Trevor Lawrence has done for the majority of his career. Some of the guys he's hit big with, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, like tight ends working over the middle of the field. And I think now entering his second season, I get that the Bears are the all-pro hype team. I think the Jaguars deserve more credit because I think that their ceiling can be high, if not higher than the Chicago Bears. And with Trevor Lawrence, look, Liam Cohen, we saw 2 years ago with Baker Mayfield. He threw for over 40 touchdowns in this offense. And I also have a lot of betting stuff with Trevor Lawrence as well. I love him as an MVP dark horse candidate because when you look at Trevor Lawrence, he's only 27 years old. And that is actually the average age of MVP quarterbacks since Tom Brady won his first MVP at age 30. So I get, it feels like the narrative has been written about Trevor Lawrence. He's never really lived up to the number one overall pick, but it's like, I don't think his story's been written fully yet. And I think what we saw last year is just a glimpse of what the ceiling can be in this offense. So super high on Trevor Lawrence in fantasy and betting. Yeah.
37.74.5 is the over I played for Trevor Lawrence. I'm really surprised at this number, given the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington, Travis Hunter will be a nice little gadget guy, and Jacoby Myers is a steady veteran. I mean, those are four very good receiving options. I was surprised at how low this number was for Trevor Lawrence. I'm assuming you like the over as well.
Yes, 100%. I think one of the points, too, that you listed off there was we have question marks about the running back room. I like Bayshaw Tootin a lot, but there is a chance that he does not assert himself as a bell cow type of running back. He was a former day 3 pick. I think Chris Rodriguez is just a jag. So if this team can't establish a really effective ground game, well, what does that mean for Trevor Lawrence? It's going to be more dropping back to throw. I expect him to call his name a lot in the red zone, similar to what we've seen with Josh Allen. And defensively, the Jaguars last year were one of the biggest pass funnel defenses, right? So they were selling out to stop the run, and they were welcoming pass attempts. So that to me suggests more shootout game scripts, which means more passing yards for Trevor Lawrence. So I love this bet, Matt.
What round are you recommending Trevor Lawrence? When you said late quarterback, so we talking like 6th, 7th, 8th round for Trevor Lawrence? Are you saying taking him earlier? Should he be QB1? Should he be the first quarterback off the board?
Not the first quarterback off the board, because I still take my boy Drake May over Trevor Lawrence. But when you're considering the price, Trevor Lawrence is more likely to be available in rounds 8, 9, even 10. Like there are just the quarterback position this year in particular just feels so deep where you can get guys like, with your last pick, you could probably draft someone like Jared Goff and be like, all right, well, I'll just roll with a guy who basically doesn't play outside until week 18 of this season and just throws for 4,000 yards every year, 30 touchdowns, and I'll be good to go. So I do think I still want Trevor Lawrence, though, in that I'm willing to pay up a little bit for him, but still a round 9 pick. Your roster is going to be mostly filled out by that point anyway. So it's going to be great value for a player that I do think at least will be in that conversation of QB1. And again, Josh Allen, when you compare the prices, he's someone that's going to go in round 3. And that's just not a bet that I want to make when you can get a player like Lawrence, who I think maybe has a similar ceiling case so many rounds later.
And then finally, a running back that you were liking, Rachaad White from the Tampa Bay Bucks, with the uncertainty with Baker Mayfield as to whether or not he's going to be happy this year. He's not going to be. No Mike Evans. I get this, that the Bucks might be looking to lean more heavily on the running game here. Why do you like White in Tampa to have a breakout season?
So, Matt, this is why you need to make sure that you're in the streets with the FantasyPros tools, because Rachaad White is no longer on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh,
he is on the Washington Commanders.
Thank you.
Reuniting with Jaden Daniels. But hey, this is why we got you covered, man. Like the
Thank you.
FantasyPros tools has these news updates because there are a lot of people that are still coming into fantasy right now that didn't recognize all the player movement. And we have you covered in all these types of avenues. So for me, it's Rachaad White, again, jettisoned from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lost his job last year to Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker. But Rachaad White, to me, has been a player that has shown an extremely high floor. He has caught 40 or more passes in 4 straight seasons, which makes him one of the more reliable receiving running backs. Talked about how he's being reunited with Jaden Daniels, where I think their actual college connection actually works well for Rachaad White, because I think gives him an opportunity to see the field. And when you just look at the other players in this backfield, Corey Krosky-Merritt, he was a 7th-round pick last year, had his moments as a rookie, still a day 3 pick. I don't think that he's a super accomplished pass catcher, so I think that White can still have a role. And then you have Katron Allen, out of Penn State, a 2-down grinder. That's how he projects. So I think this offense can bounce back in a big way with a healthy Jaden Daniels. And I think Rachaad White, just given the fact that he was much better in an EPA per rush standpoint last year, he was actually really good in the red zone, second in rushing success rate overall because of how well he was effective rushing into the goal line. I think he has touchdown upside, and I think he has a receiving ceiling as well, and an offense that I'm willing to buy back. So Rachaad White, especially when he goes well outside the top 30 running backs, if I had to make a bet on who would be this year's Javonte Williams, kind of like a veteran guy that, all right, hey, we're kind of like over this player, has a major bounce back, it'd be Rachaad White for me.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, like, I'm glad we're talking about this because I would have said really because Krusky Merritt became the darling of the NFL late. I mean, he was, as you mentioned, this guy came out of nowhere, and now he's RB1 in this offense with a running quarterback. So you're not concerned about, the share of running of attempts that we're going to see from White coming in. Will he take over RB1 at some point in your mind in that offense?
I do think that's possible. It is priced into White's ADP, where you're going to be drafting him. He's a late round running back play. But if Krusky Merritt is only taking on these early down rushing attempts, rushes in between the 20s, we talk about this a lot in fantasy. It's where you want these high value touches. We play in PPR leagues. So Rachaad White could catch a pass for 1 yard. That's a point. If Jacory Krusky Merritt rushes the ball for 1 yard, that is 0.1 points. Like that is not doing you anything or moving the needle. So I do think Rachaad White can at least capitalize on red zone opportunities and pass catching. And that alone suggests, hey, this guy can be a top 30 running back every year of his career. He's been no worse than RB 38 and half PPR. And we just look at where his ADP, that's where he is. So being drafted at his stone cold floor. And I think that if Krusky Merritt doesn't take that step forward as a second year running back, well, I think they'll just turn to the veteran who Jaden Daniels trusts.
Last question before I get you out of here. And we'll do this periodically as we go through August because we have a question from the audience. McBride is expected to have a monster year for a really bad team in the Arizona Cardinals. What do you make of Bowers in this offense with Kirk Cousins with the Raiders? And how high do you have McBride in terms of being productive this year in this offense, given it's going to be a rough year in Arizona?
I have them as my top 2 tight ends. I do have Bowers one spot ahead of Trey McBride, so he is my tight end 1. I am just buying the Clint Kubiak impact on this offense and fading the Nathaniel Hackett. We've seen this guy bounce from team to team, and I know that LaFleur is the head coach and the main play caller, but I don't want any of my fantasy players anywhere near Nathaniel Hackett. I'm just sorry. And the fact that you have a risk of, I don't want Trey McBride catching passes from Carson Beck. That scares the bejesus out of me. So I'm very confident that Mendoza will eventually take over as a starting quarterback once the Raiders go through this Kirk Cousins experiment. They figured out, hey, maybe he's not that good anymore. Let's just use our guy that we drafted number 1 overall. And just look at last year, Clint Kubiak built the entire Seahawks offense around one guy, JSN. And he was a fantasy football league winner. And when you look at Brock Bowers, it's really not a stretch to could he just be the JSN in this new offense for the Raiders? Yeah, because he's by far their best player, even better than Ashton Genty, in my opinion. So Brock Bowers in year 3, when he was healthy last year, he was still an absolute force. So it's actually funny, Matt, that you mentioned Brock Bowers and Trey McBride when talking about on the Betting Pro show about who could be the first tight end to ever win Offensive Player of the Year. My money would be on Brock Bowers at 80-1.
I mean, okay, hold on.
JSN won it last year.
Hold on. Brock Bowers is going to have a target share unlike any tight end we've ever seen for that to happen. I mean, you have to be a wide receiver.
Who's the next best receiver? Trey Tucker?
Oh, no, I'm not debating that point, but you're arguing as to, do you want Kirk Cousins or Mendoza? I don't think Mendoza should play the whole year. I don't think he's ready. I don't think Mendoza's ready at all. I would play Kirk Cousins the entire year for the Raiders because I think the Raiders can run the football with Ashton Genty, use the offensive line. They just completely redid their offensive line. Use that, run the ball, play defense, and use Brock Bowers in the red zone. So, wow, you think he could be an offensive player of the year?
I think that his odds are just reflected of him playing tight end. But
true.
When you look at how he plays, he's really more of a receiver. And that's why his odds are so long, because a tight end has never won the award, even during all those Gronk seasons, Jimmy Graham seasons, Antonio, those guys never ended up in that conversation, even Trey McBride last year, but he played on a bad team. So I just think that Brock Bowers is in for something really, really special this season. And I think that in some of these prediction markets where you can sell off some of these. I think that these odds are going to dramatically shift once we see Bowers really tuned up in this offense.
Don't hate the idea of selling it. Don't hate that. Take a position and see how he starts, and then kind of be able to maneuver around it. My friend, how can folks get your fantasy stuff if they're getting ready for their leagues? How can they read and watch what you're doing?
You can follow me over on X at @AndrewErickson_. That's kind of my profile across all socials. So whether it's on Blue Sky, Instagram, I'm all over there. When I'm not posting pictures of my dog, Archie Erickson, my golden retriever puppy, I'm talking about something fantasy football related. So, and all my articles, rankings can be found on fantasypros.com, betting content on bettingpros.com. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast as well, where we're just, I mean, it's 5 days a week. We are just humming along, new shows every single week. I look at them like, man, another stacked week of shows. So this is the best time to be alive, in my opinion.
It's a lot of fun. On the juice today, I told everyone to bet Texas to miss the playoffs, by the way. So sorry, I can't follow your Archie love. I can't follow it. I plus 150 Texas to miss the playoffs was a play I made today. So we'll see what happens. Good stuff, my friend. We'll talk soon. All right.
Thanks, Matt.
Andrew Erickson, Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, joining us here on Pushing the Odds. Great to get him on the program talking about your fantasy. We'll do some more fantasy as we go through August, because obviously there's a lot of things goes on. I don't talk fantasy all that often, but as we get to the drafting, obviously it's the most important time of the year to draft for fantasy right now. So you guys have a chance to get on. I know there's a bunch of questions in the chat for pick who. We'll have a day like that. We'll bring Andrew on, and you guys can just fire your questions at him to go ahead and find out who get what, because most of your questions are going to be similar to other people's questions, draft this guy over this guy, or start that guy over that guy. So I don't do a lot of starter sit type stuff, but with Debro coming on every Monday and Thursday coming up here, we're going to have a lot of stuff going on, obviously, with fantasy and betting with both sides. So Debro, I think I've told you guys that. Yeah, we talked about this. Every Monday, every Thursday, Derek Brown, Debro from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros will be on the program. Every Friday is with Fitzy. We could have somebody else pop in there as well for a weekly guest spot. But those are our two football weekly guest spots that are going to be on, where we will talk fantasy from time to time with Debro and let you guys ask Debro questions as to what's going on. Let's talk about what happened last night and really is what's been going on for the last month. Well, the Boston Red Sox just won't stop winning. I mean, this is ridiculous. Boston went 21-4 in the month of July. That's the best full month winning percentage in franchise history at an 84% clip. They won the last two games in LA against the Dodgers in the month of August to open up 2-0. They are now 9 games over 500. They were 10 games under 500 at one point this year, and they are right on the heels of the New York Yankees for the number 1 wildcard spot in the American League. We'll see if Boston makes a trade today before the deadline at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Boston became the first Major League Baseball team to ever start a month 10 games under 500 and finish it 3 games over 500. That is an unbelievable turnaround that nobody saw coming with where the Red Sox have performed. And now, excuse me, they're sitting here with the chance to add potentially a shortstop, potentially a pitcher. There's a lot of pressure on Craig Breslow, the general manager, to do something today, but he could sit back and say, what do you want me to do? We've won, over the last 33 games, we've won 27 of them. So what, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to bust this up and change the momentum? Cedar Rafaela had hit 4 home runs in 3 games against the Dodger pitchers. Do they need a right-handed power bat? I don't know. Rafaela is right now providing that. They've got guys on the IL that are top of the line horses that, what are we doing with Garrett Crochet? I don't know. But if that guy comes back and gives you 50%, if he gives you an arm out of the bullpen, it's Garrett Crochet. So can you get him ready? Supposedly to have him ready for the All-Star, to have him ready for the playoffs, he must be starting his workouts, starting his rehab by the 15th of August. That's the cut date for Garrett Crochet. If he can find a way to get healthy enough to pitch at all for the Red Sox this year, that's a better arm than anybody they're going to acquire here at the deadline. So they may think that they got that, okay? There's even some conspiracy theorists out there that are saying the Red Sox have shut down Garrett Crochet in order to have him healthy for September and they're going to get him ready to go. And he's been secretly working out and secretly getting ready. And come September 1st, Garrett Crochet is going to be ready. And the Red Sox are going to have a rested and healthy top of the line guy to go along with Sonny Gray and the rest of the pitching staff. Regardless, the Red Sox have been on a ridiculous run that nobody saw coming at all. And again, the Major League Baseball trade deadline is coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight. We haven't seen any major deals yet. There's been a bunch of small ones, but let's see what happens if there's going to be a major deal that pops in the next 6 hours before the Major League Baseball trade deadline. All right. There are only 9 of you left in this contest. Okay. Oh, about 89 of you guys entered this contest to be my partner for the Circa Million contest. One of you will get that opportunity. I'm paying the bill. I'm going to have us in this contest. You're going to be my partner. You're going to pick more games than me. You're going to pick 3 or 4, up to you. I'm going to pick the rest, 2 or 1. Okay. So really, if we do well, it'll be because of you. I will do my best to help you, but this is about your chance of going into the Circa Million contest for free. I will pay the entry fee. I will get the proxy. We'll be good to go coming up for this football season. So we're down to 9 of you left. Here are the clues. This is vague on purpose. Okay. I am not going to give you the information. There are 2 slides. I'm not going to say much about it. I'm going to read it. You guys can screenshot it. You can come back and watch this. You have 24 hours tomorrow at 11 a.m. to give me the answer to this trivia question. Solve the puzzle. It's a sporting event. You must solve this puzzle. Okay. If you solve this puzzle, okay, that's part 1. There is part 1. Solve the puzzle. Okay. Get the answer to that. You solve the puzzle. Then you have to answer 2 questions. By how much and where did it take place? Okay. If you can solve the puzzle, first solve the puzzle, then answer the questions, and then email them to me at openinglinemedia@gmail.com. Okay. That is your entry. Do not put the answer into the chat if you figured it out. Do not put it on the Discord channel. There's 9 people competing for this. If you got the answer, congratulations. Happy for you. Do not tell anyone until tomorrow's show, and then you can brag about how right you were and how much you knew it. Okay. That is the way, and we'll find out how many people are left after tomorrow. See how many people get it right. Okay. With those 2. If you missed the slides, just scroll back. It's on YouTube. It's scroll back and you can see the both slides, but you have to have both there. Okay. Got to have both. Figure out that puzzle. That I love the fact that we're doing it. We did it 2 times ago. It was really fun because people had crazy guesses, but once you figure out that 3 blank word, those 3 words, then answer the questions. Good luck to you. Time for the Circa Sports Team of the Day, being brought to you by Circa Sports, Circa Survivor, and Circa Million. It's a $1,000 entry. Grandissimo is a $100,000 entry. It's a $4 million grand prize guaranteed for Grandissimo. Circa Million's a $1 million first place prize, plus all the other contests, the booby prizes in the quarter contests. Circa Million and Circa Survivor are both going to be awesome this year. Survivor is going to go over 20 million. It's a guaranteed of 20 million. We're already going to go over that. We're pacing way ahead of schedule for this. If we go over either one, the money goes right back into the prize pool. No rake is ever taken. You must be in Vegas when you sign up, or you can hire a proxy if you would like. We got one of those for you. Circasports.com for more information. Our Circa Sports Team of the Day, the Houston Texans, who are about 20-1 to win it all. You guys know I'm not high on the Texans by any means. Their win total is set at 9.5. I wouldn't recommend betting the under, but CJ Stroud is a player that I'm just not really comfortable backing. They have an unbelievable defense. They added a piece to their defense. We'll get to it during the Pro Football Story of the Day in a second. The schedule sets up pretty well for them, although the first 2 games are brutal. But they're at home, Buffalo and Cincinnati. Both winnable, but they can lose both those games as well. First road game is to Indianapolis. You play Dallas in week number 4. You don't go on the road to a team that you should win against until week number 5 against Tennessee. And then you're going overseas to play Jacksonville in a game that I cannot believe is being sent to London. I hate that game being sent to London, but it is. Then you have the Giants at home, should be a W, and then the bye week. A realistic schedule, a realistic record with that schedule for the Texans, in my mind, would be 4 wins. I mean, 4-3 is not awful. 5-2 is great. If you're 5-2 heading to the bye week, awesome. But if you get off to an 0-2 start, which is possible, and then you're at Indianapolis, which is not going to be an easy place to play. You're home for Dallas, a game you can definitely lose. You're at Tennessee, which is a divisional game on the road, and you're going to London to play the Jaguars. You know, you're coming back, maybe you have 2 wins at the bye week, and you're 2-5 heading to the bye week. So, the path there is not easy for the Houston Texans, and that's why they're 20-1. The division is much better, and you're going to get into your divisional games a ton as you hit the second half of the year. You open up the second half of your schedule at the Chargers and at the Browns. Now, the Browns should be a W, but you play the Colts at home and the Ravens at home. Then you play Pittsburgh and Washington on the road. After the bye week, 4 of their first 6 games are on the road, and 6 of their first 9 games after the bye are on the road. That's a very difficult schedule for a warm weather team to have to go to Philadelphia, to Pittsburgh, to Washington, and to Green Bay in December and January. That is not good for the Texans. Home for the Titans at the end of the season, but that's what would really worry me big time if I am looking at this as an over bet on the Texans. I don't like the second half of that schedule. That worries me a lot. And maybe you think that CJ Stroud is your guy. I'm just not one of them. I told you I bet the under on his passing yardage, 36.50 for his passing yardage. I just don't think, without Tank Dell being healthy, maybe never be the player he once was after the broken leg. And I know Nico Collins is tremendous. I'm just not a fan. They're going to run the ball with David Montgomery. I get it. That's why they traded for him. But that defense is awesome. But the offense still has to score. And the offense, the defense can't be expected to score every week. And it feels like that's how the Texans play, that the defense is going to be needed to either set up easy touchdowns, turn the football over, create advantageous situations for CJ Stroud. Any type of adversity for CJ Stroud in the postseason, things went really, really poorly for him. Yeah, I don't know. 8-9, 9 wins might be the ceiling for the Texans with that schedule and who's playing quarterback. And if that happens, I think CJ Stroud's probably not the guy for this team. It is a big show me year for a lot of people, including me, about where the Texans are. So that takes us to our pro football story of the day, being brought to you by our friends at VegasFootballProxy.com. Clowney is back. Jadeveon Clowney has signed to go to the Houston Texans. He called it a really easy decision, who arrived in 2014 as the number 1 overall pick out of South Carolina, but left in 2019 and has since played for 6 different teams, re-signing with Houston, telling the Houston Chronicle it wasn't about the money. I just felt like they got a good team and I can contribute. It was really an easy decision. Well, I think from a Houston Texan perspective, yeah, talking about a team with some of the best defensive linemen and best linebackers in all of football, and now you add Clowney to do basically one thing. It's going to be a third down specialist. I mean, that's going to be the entire thing, just to rush the quarterback. That's it. It's a good addition. It's a good addition to that defense. It makes them even deeper. It makes them better. But again, I don't care how much. I mean, this defense is still 1, 2, or 3 in the NFL, with or without Clowney. It's 1, 2, or 3. It's the offense that's the problem. It's the quarterback that's the problem for the Texans. So to me, I don't care who you add on the defense side of the football. If you're Houston, keep on adding more and more players. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Defense is really good. It's really deep. Can you score? Can you stop turning the ball over? Can your quarterback play at an elite level? Those questions still are unanswered, even with Clowney being signed by the Texans. So, I mean, I get Houston's excited to have him back, but look, it doesn't change my opinion of Houston just because they wound up getting him. If you guys need a proxy, the official proxy service for all of the football handicapping contests in Las Vegas is VegasFootballProxy.com. You're going to go to the website, make a reservation. Tom and his great staff will take care of you for Circa Million, Circa Survivor, the Grandissimo, or any of the contests for the Westgate as well. They will explain the procedure. They will explain how to submit your picks each and every week. But remember, you must be in Vegas one time for at least an hour to sign up at either the Westgate or Circa to get in. You could be in Reno too, I guess, as well. So, but Tom would have to meet you up there, and a whole different conversation about how to meet Tom in Reno, but he's got people everywhere. So if you got to go to Reno, maybe he'll figure out a way to get to Reno for you. But Vegas, he's there every darn day. Circa Million, Survivor, Grandissimo, and all the Westgate contests. You're going to log on to VegasFootballProxy.com. The official proxy service of Pushing the Odds is VegasFootballProxy.com. Okay, let's pivot here. Let's switch gears. Let's talk college sports for a second. The Big Ten and the SEC both agreed to the bill that will reshape college sports if it does get passed. Let's jump down the rabbit hole and take a look at what this bill does. All right, our friends at Rabbit. If you guys haven't gone to their website or haven't gone to their app yet, you should. It's relaunched. It's redone. This is where you go to customize your sports picks for no limit. You set the terms. You set the shots. You call the shots. It's a truly social experiment with real people. 100% customizable odds, and you can use the code PTO5 for Rabbit Cash when you sign up at Rabbit. Okay, this is an interesting look at the way that politicians feel they can get involved to save college sports. This is the Protect College Sports Act. The Big Ten and the SEC were not really supportive of it. They looked like they wanted to get away from it, but politicians can strong arm people in sports, and it looks like it worked. There was a pretty quick about face in the 11th hour that sent this landmark legislation to the Senate floor for a vote coming up next week. What does this thing do? Okay, here's the bill. It looks a lot like the old rules, but it's under the new current environment of NIL. Schools could spend about $49 million on athletes, a $29.3 million base cap plus a retention pool to keep their players. So they can go out and spend $21 million on new players, and they can pay their current players $22.5 million, plus $5 million for women's sports and non-revenue sports. That's a 129% increase to what is currently being spent at the moment. 2, the bill includes deals tied to schools and associated partners like sponsors, apparel brands, and multimedia right groups to prevent cap circumvention. This is the problem. How in the world do you police this? Because this looks a lot like the old stuff, right? Under the table bill, under the table payments will be happening like crazy from people taking things off the table, off the record, and not being tracked or reported. Number 3, transfers and eligibility would give the NCAA and the conferences a limited antitrust exemption, restore the one-time transfer exemption, which is awesome. If you transfer more than once, you got to sit. Standardize 5-year eligibility. I like that. And ban pros from returning to college. I like that as well. And then number 4, for conference expansion, power conferences could only have 19 schools. Interesting, because 20 is what most people think we're going to go to. Teams switching power leagues would have to operate independently for 5 years. So we would basically stop the current run on expansion. Does this fix college sports? No. But it's a start. I mean, it's something. It's the parameters. It gives us a framework to at least get us into the right frame of mind as to how do we fix quote unquote college sports. I don't love that politicians are involved, but it felt like college sports needed somebody to pay attention. They weren't going to do a czar. So you needed somebody to step in and say, hey, these are state-run institutions. These are people who have state-run, you're taking state funds, federal funds, you guys are still academic institutions. Okay. You're tied to these universities. These universities need money from the government to do a variety of things. So if you keep on playing this game, you guys are not going to be able to do anything that we want you to do. And this is the problem. How do you police it? They'll self-report, right? That's the problem. It feels like, okay, we're all on board that we got to fix this, right? We're all on board that we're trying to create a new environment, a different environment. But it is extraordinarily frustrating to think that schools are going to abide by this and no one's going to cheat. You essentially, this is the Big Ten's argument, right? Like, why has the Big Ten been so dominant? Because the SEC can't cheat anymore. And so for a long time, the SEC could pay their players, and the Big Ten people didn't pay them as much. So players went to SEC schools. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's the line. And thus that the players can be paid across the board. Really, this wild, wild west. There is no parameter. There's no cap on what you can spend on a player. So the Big Ten folks can pay and pay and pay, just like the SEC can pay and pay and pay. And look what happened. The Big Ten won back-to-back championships. I don't know. If the SEC goes back to domination again, if this passes, it should, and goes into effect. If the SEC all of a sudden rears back, maybe there was something to that. And maybe the SEC is not going to be beholden to this. I just don't think schools can be trusted not to break the rules in order to win. The genie is already out of already out. I'm not sure how you come back, and I'm not sure how you fix this. I'm just not so, to me, I think most of this stuff is good. I just don't know how you do number two. How do you fix number two? I don't know. I don't understand how you fix that. Deals with partners and sponsors and apparel groups and multimedia right groups. If I'm someone who operates a large company in Florida and I want to pay, college players, I don't know. I feel like it's very difficult to police that. So I think in theory, it looks like it's better than nothing, but I'm not sure it changes or fixes college sports. I'm not sure it protects college sports the way they think it's going to. I hope it does. I hope that there's some real teeth, that if you get caught cheating, there's a real significant penalty for it. I haven't seen that yet as to what happens if you don't follow the rules. That would need to be established. And then who is investigating and who is implementing? What enforcement group? Because the NCAA has no teeth. We know this. And no one's afraid of the NCAA. So now you're going to put this and say, hey, you do this, you get fined? Like what? You get suspended? You get your money cut? You get your NIL cut? I guess those could be significant, but that's my only concern about it. I just don't know if it really stops the spending and stop the cheating. I think it just drives it back underground where it was for so long. If you guys are watching live, we got a bunch more to come, including the Trend Center app trend of the day and my favorite thing about today. So stick around for that. If you're live, don't move. If you guys are on the replay on Sports Grid, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Come on over and watch the bonus time on our YouTube channel. You guys can find it at Opening Line Media. Bonus time starts now. All right, let's talk about our Trend Center app trend of the day. All right, full disclosure, I'm not touching baseball today. I want no part of MLB Trade Deadline Day as to who's going to get traded. So far, Jose Serrano goes to the Blue Jays. Luis Arraez goes to the Phillies. Brooks Raley goes to the Phillies. The Braves got Brett Suter. These are all minor deals. These are nothing to write home about. Freddie Peralta gets traded to the Rays. Gausman goes to the Cubs. Skubal's the deal. There's not a lot out there at the moment and the Blue Jays keep on acquiring pitchers. They acquired 2 pitchers the last 2 days. Jameson Taillon, they acquired him. I don't know what the Blue Jays are doing. Blue Jays aren't going anywhere. Where are the Blue Jays going? So that's a weird deal with the Blue Jays. But so far it's been a boring deadline. So let's see what happens. Let's see if there's going to be a big blockbuster, a Mike Trout or somebody like that gets traded. Even a Neto or somebody of note that gets traded. So let's see. But up to this point, it's been relatively quiet. It is 12:05 Eastern time at the moment. We are 6 hours away from the deadline. So we got some time left before this thing gets rolling. But at the moment, it hasn't been that entertaining. So long story short to say, I'm not betting baseball because there's so many things up in the air. But if you want to, the Trend Center app trend of the day would take you to the Diamondbacks over. That should be the Pirates, right? I don't think that's a mistake. Sorry. Hold on. That's supposed to be the Pirates, not the Padres, right? Oh no, it is Padres. No. Sorry. Hold on. Wait. Today it is Padres. Nope. That was yesterday. What's today? Hold on. Major League Baseball, MLB needs to get their schedule correct. ESPN's schedule is much more easy. Today, there we go. It is. Oh no. Okay. Sorry. We ended up getting that correct. San Diego is the opponent. I thought it was the Pirates. It's the Padres. Arizona at home, money line, late. I love this guy's name, Brandon Pfaadt. Brandon Pfaadt, last 6 starts, 6-0 on the money line, Arizona. If you want to bet a late game tonight, Diamondbacks on the money line. It's actually plus money on this at FanDuel. Plus money on the Diamondbacks money line is your Trend Center app trend of the day. 6 starts, 6 wins for the Diamondbacks when Pfaadt starts the game for them for that on that. But I would tread lightly. I would tread really, really, really lightly today. Prop bets are sort of up in the air. There's just so much uncertainty going on right now in Major League Baseball with the trade deadline. I would be very cautious about that. I'd be very cautious about coming in and betting heavy on baseball today for that. So that's kind of why just the picks is pretty boring. There's just not a lot going on here because I'm not betting very much, but I did tell you that I bet Texas to miss the playoffs at plus 150. It's been a relatively controversial take, but sorry, I just think the schedule, they went 0-3 on the road last year. I think the schedule was really difficult for Texas. They could lose to Ohio State at home. They have to go to Tennessee, to Missouri, to LSU, and to Texas A&M. They have home games against Ole Miss that they could lose as well. I'm just not the biggest of Arch Manning fans. I don't know. For me, I'm just not jumping up and down about Sark and Texas with expectations. If you've got that, number one target on your back, not great, not in love with it. I think there's a lot of questions out there at the moment about Texas in terms of their offensive line. It was not good last year. They've spent big time money. Coleman, the kid from Auburn, the wide receiver, should be outstanding, but he seems to be a bit of a temperamental wide receiver. So you could get diva wide receiver type stuff out of him if Arch Manning's not performing the way he's supposed to. I just think at plus 150, I think that there's a pretty decent shot there at some plus money to have Texas miss the playoffs here, even though they are number one and they got huge expectations. It's a value play, right? I like Oklahoma to win the Red River. So, I think 2 or 3 losses for Oklahoma is really, really possible. Texas is loaded with talent. There's no debating that on paper. How many times have we seen teams that have been loaded with talent not live up to the billing? So at plus 150, I think it has great value. You can think it's a horrible play. You know how I feel about that, right? You almost just guaranteed this to cash. I love this. Like I love this. Like of all the this take on the internet has been so fun. This take has been awesome. So I think on 3 or 4 different platforms, the most controversial take I have put out are butthurt Texas fans who cannot handle the truth that their team is being led by a coach who can't deliver, by a quarterback who has all the hype in the world, who is yet to perform, and a team whose schedule is extraordinarily difficult. Like, all these things are true. And when I say Oklahoma is going to beat Texas in the Red River, they can't fucking handle it. Like, their head explodes. Texas fans just do this. They just start slamming. Like, it's awesome. It's all just complete keyboard warrior freak out Texas fans. It's awesome. I mean, it's great. I think it's so interesting to me because it means college football is close. I love it. I love college football. Texas and the SEC hasn't done much. It hasn't really done much. And Texas, still, people my age look at Texas and they remember Vince Young and they remember all these different things. If they lose to Ohio State out of the gate, which I think is going to happen, look at their schedule. Hold on. Let me just, I did this for the juice today, but I'll put this up for the sake of, let me go find it really fast because I think it's worth pointing out because I think it's, there it is. This is their schedule. Okay. And you tell me, okay, look at their schedule. Ohio State out of the gate. If that's a loss, okay, they go to Tennessee to play at Knoxville. They can win that game, but they have to play Oklahoma the next week, which is going to be a monster game. Can they get caught looking ahead to Oklahoma? Absolutely. And they lose in Knoxville. It's possible, 100%. Then they play the Red River neutral against Oklahoma, which I think if John Mateer is healthy and that Oklahoma defense, that's going to be a really hard game for Arch Manning. If he plays poorly, Oklahoma can win that game. That'd be 2 losses before they get out of October. Then they play Florida, which again, they should win, but Ole Miss is legit with Chambliss. Okay. That's a team that wants to get into the postseason. So they could be in the playoffs. So they could lose that game. Let's just say they win their home game against Florida, win their home game against Ole Miss. They'll beat Mississippi State. They'll go to Missouri. They should win that game, but they have back-to-back road games and they got to go play at LSU. That's a loss. So there's 3 losses. And then you have Arkansas, and then A&M is a huge game. That's a monster rivalry game where they could lose the game or even win the game and have 3 losses and miss the playoffs. I think I just think, again, it's a value play for me. Okay. And I said, tape this and show it to me come December. And when Texas is undefeated and you can go ahead and run circles on me and say, Matt, this was a horrible bet. What did you do that for? It's a value play. At plus 150, the horrible bet is to bet $2 on Texas to make the playoffs. That's a horrible bet. But to take the plus 150 on a value play, given that schedule, given their inexperience, and given the fact that this team as a unit has not played together, I don't care what the roster looks like. It doesn't matter to me, right? If that was the case, Alabama would win the championship every single year. Like, just because a player is good, in basketball, you can do this. You can build a super team with 5 guys and go play. Football's not like that. Okay? Football's not like that. In particular, when you have a quarterback who hasn't won on the road. Has Arch won on the road yet? Nope. Okay? So, now he has to go and play in these really big games on the road in really hostile environments, and you better hope that offensive line's better because it was bad last year. So, now you spent all this money. Okay, do the guys gel? Does it work? A lot of question marks. Lot of question marks going on here with Texas. Them being the number 1 team is a paper number 1. There's no real evidence to put them at number 1 in my mind. Not yet. They got to play somebody. They got to beat somebody. As I said before, rankings shouldn't come out till October. And Texas, for so long, I'm 49. I've been watching Texas football for a long time in both the Big 12 and in the SEC. When this team gets hyped up and gets a ton of attention, they fall on their face all the time because they aren't Texas, what they used to be. They got big money and they got big donors and they have a lot of history. But the recent history of Texas is failure and failing to live up to expectations. This number 1 seed, this number 1 pick, this number 1 selection for Texas to start the year is bad news. Bad news for Texas. You want to be the hunter, not the hunted, because so often you get caught and put down. Favorite thing about today. I love Texas fans. They just can't handle it in the chat. It's so good. It's so good. It's just, it means college football's here. Favorite thing about today is that. It's that. It's just so, it's so great. Yep. I mean, the Maple Leafs, sure. Yeah, that's there. I mean, Texas and Toronto, very similar. I would say the Maple Leafs and the Texas Longhorn football programs, very, very similar. Whole lot of talent, whole lot of hype, never delivering when they need to, never performing when they need to. At least not recently, right? Because they live on history. They live on what happened. They live on what should have been, what could have been. Oh, they lost to this team. They lost to that. Oh, it's not Sark's fault. It's this. Okay. Arch was too quick. Arch was this. Arch was that. Okay. Like, sure. Let's see it. I've been wrong before. 35-1 Oklahoma to win it all is a hell of a bet. The hell of a bet. It's a phenomenal value. I've been singing that all summer long for OU with that defense. With as long as John Mateer stays healthy, Oklahoma. Look, we're talking college now. We're not talking pro. We're talking college. I take John Mateer over Arch Manning in college, not in the pros. Arch Manning could very well have all the tools and go on to be a really, really good quarterback in the NFL. But watching him, he's a hell of a runner. Not sure how great a passer he is. You better be careful. That team does not suck, okay? OU's got the best defense in college football. So I don't know. I mean, OU's got a lot of things that are wrong with OU in terms of where they are as a football program. Defense is not one of them. So, like, in the Red River, let's see. John Mateer stays healthy. I like John Mateer a lot. I really do. He's a really, really good college quarterback. Not going to be a great pro, but a really, really good college quarterback. Favorite thing about today is that we get to touch football. So fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Andrew Erickson for coming on. He missed any part of the program. You can watch it anytime you want. A lot of fun happening tomorrow as well. I don't know what direction I'm going tomorrow because it depends upon who gets traded. Okay. So like it depends on if there's a major move in baseball that changes the odds. We'll talk baseball tomorrow, but if not, we'll keep going with football and we'll start going into some more team previews and talking to reporters and whatnot on the show coming up for tomorrow. Remember, Wednesday, we're live, and then Thursday and Friday, we're off. Friday is an audio-only version of Pushing the Odds. Thursday, audio-only. Friday, no show because I'm traveling back from Bet Bash in Las Vegas. Adam Bjorn and I, more on that coming up later, but Adam Bjorn and I are on Thursday. Live from Bet Bash, but an audio-only recording of PTO will be out in the mid-afternoon for you folks on the East Coast for the version of the program. Back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern for Pushing the Odds.